Okay, so this video is about how I got a 4.0 with ADHD. Before we begin, I just want to point out how ridiculous my setup is. I'm literally holding a webcam with my left hand. It's just pointing at myself. I've got a microphone that I used to use back in my music days. It's sitting on my hat stand. I'm just dangling it down. It's catching the audio. And that's how I'm choosing to film this video. Okay, let's talk about ADHD. So how did I get a 4.0? Well, I didn't always get good grades. I should say that first. Because if I always got good grades, then there was really nothing that I could have learned that I could be sharing with you guys. You know, the point of this video was to help people. I'm not just sitting here, making an entertaining video, a funny video, No, the point of this video is that at least one person will watch this video and their lives will be better because of this video and because of my experience with ADHD. So with that said, I used to be a CB student in high school. Now, I went to college, I got an ADHD counselor, and I became an A student. And everything that I'm going to say in this video is essentially just the things that I learned in that year of college with that ADHD counselor that I'm going to teach with you guys. It's just spreading the word by word of mouth or by word of camera, an awkward microphone, and YouTuber. Okay, so first thing that you need to know to succeed in college or high school. I'm in college, so I'm biased. First of all, there's really no such thing as having ADHD. Nobody has ADHD. People have symptoms. And if they have enough symptoms, then they're given a diagnosis of ADHD. That's different than having ADHD. People can have the symptoms of ADHD. And with that said, there's a lot of diversity. There's a lot of variety in what the symptoms are for each person. And if I'm going to talk about how I cope with my symptoms, it's probably relevant for you, the viewer, to know what those symptoms are, in case they're not compatible. Maybe my symptoms are different than yours. I got a psychological evaluation about a year ago, and I was diagnosed with primarily hyperactive ADHD. And so my hyperactive impulsive symptoms were not as bad as the inattentiveness, and that's just the way I am. You might be the opposite. Maybe you don't have as many hyperactive symptoms. So I made a list here. I'm just going to read off the list. So this is what I struggle with in college with ADHD. So distractibility. That's a big one. If I'm feeling upset, or if I'm in a really good mood. I play piano, and sometimes I get done playing piano. I'm in such a good mood, I can't focus because I'm in too good of a mood. And look at me, I'm whining about, being in a good mood. But it's not always that way. Sometimes, I'm struggling with a breakup with an ex-girlfriend. And how the hell am I supposed to focus? That's the distractibility. It's distractibility from internal emotions. It's not just distractibility, you see a funny YouTube video and you get distracted from your homework, or there's this weird noise outside your room and it's distracting you. That's only one side of the coin. Well, anyways, that's one of the things I struggled with. The disorganization, impulsivity, social awkwardness. Now, it's essentially bad listening. If I'm talking to someone, and sometimes I really don't care what they have to say. And maybe I could just suck it up. Maybe I could just force myself to pay attention to what they're saying. But just like how it's hard to force myself to pay attention to a book, it can be hard to force myself to be a good listener. And that's one of the things I've struggled with. One strategy that I use for that is I repeat what they're saying in my mind. So they say something and it's just, I'm mentally rehearsing it in my mind, and by doing that, I'm reproducing what they're saying in my mind, and suddenly it becomes interesting again, just because I'm the one saying it to myself. It's a little crazy. Anyways, okay, so what I struggle with the least. So these are the things that I didn't really have to do anything about when I learned how to cope with ADHD. These are the things that are symptoms of ADHD, but not symptoms that I subjectively have. So motivation. I've never struggled with motivation. If you, the viewer, struggle with motivation, I guess I'm not really the person to give you advice on that. Sustained attention, which is different from distractibility. So distractibility is when you're paying attention to something and, oh, what's that? That's distractibility. Sustained attention, that's different. It's when you're paying attention to something and you just, shoot, I'm having a hard time putting this into words. Well, there is such a thing as Wikipedia, and you could just look up distractibility and sustained attention on Wikipedia. This video is already going to be long enough as it is, so I should probably just move on. Self-directed attention, forcing myself to pay attention to something. Now, I just talked about how sometimes I have a hard time doing that in social situations. When it comes to academic situations, I suppose I'm a little bit lucky, because a lot of the times I find my classes interesting, and so it doesn't take a huge amount of self-directed effort to force myself to pay attention to it. Unless, of course, I'm going through something like a breakup. And then it's different, but I'm gonna have to adjust this. Okay. Working memory, that can be a symptom of ADHD, having poor working memory, not something I personally struggled with. Okay. So now that I have that out of the way, it's like this 5-minute disclaimer. I have to say what I'm an expert in myself because of what I've been through. And now we're going to go to the part that you actually came to watch, the crap I do that actually helps me get better grades. Okay, the first thing is probably something you already do, but maybe you're not doing it in the way that you should. Take frequent breaks. Set a timer. Get like an egg timer from the kitchen. Set it for 15 minutes. You're going to sit there and work for 15 minutes. And when that timer goes off, you stop working, take a 5-minute break, go for a walk. Just walk around the neighborhood. Come back, do it again. 15 minutes, when the timer goes off, take a 5-minute walk. Rinse, repeat. Do that until you don't want to do it anymore. I don't know, until you get the assignment done. A bad way to take frequent breaks is to allow yourself to get distracted. If I'm reading a textbook, let's say I spend 20 minutes reading the textbook, and I say, I need a break now. This is what I don't do. I don't go to YouTube, and I don't watch a funny video. Because while I'm watching that funny video, you know what's going to happen? That video is going to end, and I'm going to see another funny video that I want to watch, and I'm going to watch that one. And then I'm going to watch another, and I'm going to watch another, and I'm going to watch another. Next thing I know, it's been like an hour. I haven't gotten crap done. And there's also something to be said about when you're taking breaks, your brain needs to consolidate the information that you've just learned. By watching a funny YouTube video as a break, you're not allowing yourself to do that. You're filling your brain with new information. You're learning. It may not seem like learning, but just watching a funny YouTube video, you're learning, you're creating memories of that video, and those memories are competing with the memories that you're trying to build from studying. And so it's not about taking breaks, it's about taking the right kind of breaks. The breaks that'll allow your brain to consolidate the information you learned, that won't get you on this cascade of distraction, so that you can get back and return and then continue studying. Okay. Another thing that I do is I take advantage of the moments where I'm in the zone. I'm not always in the zone. Like I said, this is especially helpful for, I keep on going to this breakup example, but maybe you're having conflict in the family. Maybe it's money problems. You're worried about student loans. There's a million things that could cause you emotional distress. But even when you're in the worst emotional distress, I guarantee that there will be moments where you can sit down and do some work. Even in the middle of the worst breakup ever. You wake up in the morning, you feel like crap, you can't work. 2 hours later, you feel like crap, you can't work. Maybe there's going to be like a 30-minute window where you don't feel as bad. That's when you sit down and study. That's when I sit down and study. And for one thing, if I can do that, I still feel bad about the breakup or the family stress or the student loans or whatever it may be. I still feel bad about that, but at least I got something done. And that's huge. It's this internal game you have to play. Okay, what's next? I have this pin. I set a little small goal for myself. I always lose pins. All the time, I lose pins. It's what I do. I'm always asking my friends for pins. My old strategy was to go to the store and just buy an enormous box of pins with like 60 pins, and I could just lose them. Just lose as many pins as I want. And that works. But there's something better. I set a goal for myself that I would buy like a $5 pin, and I would not lose it. I would use the pin until it's out of ink. And I have this special place in my backpack. I get the pen out, I use it, I put it back in the backpack. I set a goal for myself. This pen was going to be out of ink. As you can see, it used to be, it's about 2/3 done. I've just got a little bit left. I have not bought a pen in the last half of a year. That pen has lasted me a half of a year. I couldn't have done that without goal setting. It's setting little micro goals for yourself and achieving them. And if you turn it into a game, it's a game you can win. It's a game you're going to be motivated to win because games are fun. And that's how you hack ADHD. What's next? So we have take frequent breaks, the right kind of breaks. Take advantage of the moments when you can pay attention. Set micro goals like the pin. This is something that I do that no one else does this. No one else that I know does this. It's a little strange. I told this to one of my friends, and she gave me this weird look like, oh, what a weirdo. It is kind of weird. So what I do is I choose video game music. It could be any music. Sometimes I use ambient dance music. It could be anything. As long as it doesn't have vocals and words that can distract you. I put it on repeat. It's like the 4-minute song, and I put it on repeat. It just plays over and over. I listen to the same song for like 2 hours. Now, eventually, my brain just kind of gets used to the song being there. It doesn't distract me. I stop listening to it. It becomes a part of the background. And when I do that, I can go to coffee shops and I can just put on the same song, listen to the same song for 2 hours. That completely blocks out all of the background noise, and so I can go to coffee shops and not get distracted by other people's conversations. And it's this neat little... that's a weird one. Now, most people I would think would go insane listening to the same song for 2 hours, but I'm a weirdo, so that's what I do. Okay. Drugs. This is what you all came to this video to hear me talk about drugs, right? I have it on my thumbnail, clonidine. So drugs are important. I take clonidine. I don't take a big dose of clonidine, it's just a small dose. Because I don't think I need a big dose right now. Maybe other people take stimulants. The point being, I guess I'm not really saying anything that you already don't know. Wait, no. I guess I'm not saying anything that you already know yourself. Go to the psychiatrist, figure out what drugs you can take, and take them. And don't take the ones that you can't take. I can't take Ritalin. If I take Ritalin, I get obsessive and compulsive, and it actually makes my ADHD symptoms worse, not better, taking Ritalin. Some of them get better, like I'm not as hyperactive on Ritalin, but I'm more distracted by internal emotions when I'm on Ritalin. And so it makes some symptoms better, some symptoms worse. You know, it goes back to the fact that nobody can have ADHD. People can have symptoms, and if they have enough symptoms, they can be labeled as having ADHD. I don't mean to say that ADHD doesn't exist, but it exists as a set of symptoms, and the drugs are meant to treat the symptoms, right? A specific set of symptoms. If you don't have the symptoms that the drugs are supposed to treat, don't take the drug. You know. Yeah. Anyways, planner. So it's the other thing on my thumbnail. The first time I got a planner, I told myself I would fill this out. I never filled it out. It just sat in my backpack, and I turned in assignments late and nothing got done. I went to appointments late, nothing got done. What allows me to fill out a planner now is the fact that I made it a habit, right? I also had a problem leaving the headlights on in my car. Why do I not do that anymore? Is because it's a habit to turn them off after I'm done driving, right? So make it a habit to fill up that planner. It's going to be a pain in the ass at first. When you first get a planner, I guarantee you're not going to fill it out. At least I didn't. It's going to be... maybe you'll fill it out occasionally, but the goal is to just constantly remind yourself, I should probably be doing this. Over time, it'll become a habit. Even if you can't do it immediately at first. Over time, make it a habit. Okay. Diet and exercise. Let's talk about sugar. I still eat sugar, but I don't eat nearly as much. Because this actually runs in my family. It's the compulsive eating. I have a really fast metabolism. What happens is that when I get my hands on delicious brownies, this Christmas I went home to see my parents, and my parents made cookies, because that's what parents do, they make cookies. It's what parents are supposed to do, is when the kid comes home from college, the parent has cookies on Christmas. It's awesome. And my mom is just trying to get me to eat as many as possible. And so I do. I eat like 10 cookies. And my mom's just sitting there like, good cookies, right? And, I'm bouncing off the walls. I have a fast metabolism. I eat all of those cookies. All that sugar is digested instantly. I get all twitchy. I get really hyperactive. I know it's a bit of a controversy, the role that sugar plays in ADHD. I can only speak from my experience. Sugar makes it worse. If sugar makes it worse for you, I would develop a diet plan where you don't have as much sugar. Now I eat bread. I just eat whole wheat bread for breakfast and for dinner when I get home. I eat a lot of bread. I don't put any sugar on it, except for I did that an hour ago. Okay, there are exceptions. Anyways, exercise. Like I said, I'm not telling you something that you probably don't already know yourself. Getting exercise is important. It's probably one of the most researched things for ADHD is just getting exercise. It is so important. Probably for the same reason it helps with drug addiction. Because both drug addiction and ADHD involve... Okay, I'm not a psychiatrist, but I'm going to try explaining this. both ADHD and drug addiction both involve the neurotransmitters dopamine and norepinephrine. Specifically, with drug addiction, it's in this pathway called the mesolimbic pathway, which is below the frontal cortex. It's the reward pathway. With ADHD, it's the same neural systems, but the deficit is closer in the frontal cortex right here. And so it's the same neurotransmitter that's deficit in the same neural pathway for both drug addiction and ADHD. It's just in different locations. With ADHD, it's the frontal cortex. With drug addiction, it's the mesolimbic pathway. And so why does exercise help? It does something to that neural pathway. It supplies it with dopamine and norepinephrine. Now, how it does that, I have no idea. This is just what I learned by watching some random TED Talk like a half a year ago that I'm just trying to recall. Anyways, so organization. So we talked about planners. I have a special day for cleaning. It's Saturday morning and Sunday morning. I'll clean something. I'll clean my car on Saturday morning, and I'll clean my room on Sunday morning. And I make it into a habit. You know, we talked about habits. So filling out the planner is a habit. Having a special day of the week to clean your crap should also be a habit. And when you decide to make it a habit, at first you're not going to do it. I guarantee you're not going to do it because it's not a habit yet. You know, it takes a lot of effort to make something a habit, you know. But once it becomes a habit, then, you know, my room is a little dirty now, I'll admit, but not as dirty as it used to be. And that's all I have to say. Yeah, I should probably clean it. It's kind of dirty. Anyways. Okay. So, last thing I need to talk about is accommodations. Right now, I'm not doing any accommodations except for the GRE. I am getting accommodations for the GRE, but not for my classes. Because after doing everything that I talked about, I feel that I don't need any accommodations, and I can get straight A's without accommodations. I'm probably the exception. I don't want to get political about whether there's too many accommodations being handed out, or whether people can't, you know, on the other side, people will argue that on the other side, people will argue that people are ignorant about the benefits of accommodations because they have misconceptions about ADHD. That, you know, this can get very political. I don't want to go there. I don't want to get political. What I will say is I choose not to have accommodations. That's my choice. Actually, I don't even know why I brought that up. I should have just skipped that. If you need accommodations, then get them. That's what I want to say. So that's it. Okay. I think that's about it. All right. So I hope my camera wasn't too unbearable. I hope there wasn't too much of this. So, anyways, if you thought this video was helpful, please leave a comment. I like talking to people. I like hearing what they say. And that's all I have to say. Have a great spring semester, 2019. All right.